Breaking tonight, with less than 4 weeks to go to the midterm elections, Democrats are now desperate to distance themselves from this president. And new poll numbers out tonight may explain why. A majority of Americans, 53%, now characterize the Obama presidency as a failure. Just 41% rate it as a success. Charles Krauthammer is a Fox News contributor, a syndicated columnist, and author of the best-selling book, Things That Matter, which has now sold more than 1 million copies. Charles, good of you to be here tonight. A failure, flat out a failure. The man who stood at Invesco Field with the Greek columns, what a turnabout.
Well, that's what 6 years of hope and change will give you. Look, he came in as a guy who would revolutionize our politics, decrease the partisanship, bring a new spirit. That was sort of the main message. That, of course, has been sort of mocked by his performance. This is the most bitter partisan atmosphere in decades in Washington.
But let me ask you this, because the numbers on a lot of these items you're ticking off, they weren't very good going into re-election, and yet he was overelected by a decisive number. And so what's happening now to cause the shift?
In a presidential election, the issues matter, but the personalities matter more than anything. They ran one of the best negative campaigns in history. They portrayed Romney from the very beginning, February and March and April, with these ads, a vulture capitalist, a man who cares nothing for ordinary folks. That succeeded. Midterm elections are far more ideological than our presidential elections because the personalities aren't there. And it seems to me, when you run on the issues, Obama actually said, I'm not on the ballot, but the policies are. Well, that will kill the Democratic candidates. Within 12 hours, there were ads running in some of the states on behalf of Republicans quoting Obama, saying that my policies are on the ballot.
That's why David Axelrod came out and said that was a mistake. But let me ask you, because there's an article in the New York Times today talking about how the president has been placed on the bench by his own party. Obama's party benches him. And it talks about how Democratic senators in Colorado, speaking of Invesco Field and the Greek columns, 80,000 people in the stadium, Obama, Colorado, North Carolina, Virginia, states that were pivotal to his success, and the winning coalition of the young, the minority, the female voters do not want him. They're saying, stay out. We're going to lose if you come campaign for us here.
And that's because of the first poll that you cited. People think this is a failed presidency. They have a sense of things falling apart. You look around and just the basic competence, just the delivery of health care in the VA, just the Secret Service, the one agency people would idolize in the past. And then you look abroad of how America is no longer really respected. Our enemies have contempt for us. ISIS will proudly and gloriously behead 2 Americans and distribute it to the world on a video as a way to show how much it discounts, how much it disdains America. And that sense of America diminished, America in decline, I think, even though it's not an explicit issue, it weighs very heavily on the presidency, and by association, it weighs on the Democrats running for office.
Well, let's talk about that, because it seems like, unlike some prior conflicts where the president had the support of most Democrats but not the Republicans and maybe not some of the independents, his overall approval rating on foreign policy and his handling of ISIS is not good. Here you can see the latest handling of ISIS, 51% disapprove, and foreign policy, his numbers have been so low. And it's to the point now, Charles, where Jimmy Carter is criticizing him. First, let me tell you one thing he said, and then I'll play you the soundbite. He came out and said, we waited too long. We let the Islamic State build up its money, capability, and strength and weapons while it was still in Syria. He thought that was a mistake, waiting too long. And then he went on to add this.
President Obama, it's been hard to figure out exactly what his policy is. It changes from time to time. I noticed that both of his secretaries of defense, after they got out of office, have been very critical of the lack of positive action on the part of the president. He's been delayed. Sometimes he draws red lines on the sand in the committees, and then when the time comes, he doesn't go through with it.
You know what? He said he'd be a transformational figure, and he has been, because he has managed to bring together Dick Cheney and Jimmy Carter on the issue of his foreign policy.
Well, maybe he'll get a second Nobel Peace Prize for that. Look, what's important about that statement is what Carter mentioned about the two secretaries of defense. Here are people with a certain loyalty and sympathy for the president. One a Democrat and one a Republican. In fact, the Democrat, Panetta, is an icon of the party. He's known as a straight shooter. And they both say in their memoirs, this guy is indecisive, he vacillates, he doesn't know how to lead. And the word they haven't used, but I think we can use, is that he's been unserious. He wasn't serious in Libya. He wasn't serious about the red line. He wasn't serious about supporting the moderate opposition 2 years ago in Syria when it would have made a difference, as Panetta says. And he wasn't serious when he left Iraq entirely with no residual American force, which would have made a huge difference in order, this is on the advice of his political advisors, so he could run for re-election as I'm the guy who ended the war in Iraq. He didn't end the war in Iraq. Petraeus ended the war in Iraq. Obama's the man who threw away the fruits of victory, and the result of that, the whirlwind, we are reaping right now.
Unserious. It's the same word we heard from Senator Ted Cruz. Charles, thank you, sir.
Pleasure.